been trying to come up with a way to maybe talk through the schedule before it comes out. I thought, let's draft some games. Let's figure out which games we all like best. So we're going to go and draft 15 games. One is going to get left off. You can use any criteria you want. We're going to go snake draft style. It's going to go Doug, and then me, and then Ellis, and then back around. So, let's just get right to it. Doug, who's your number one pick?
So I don't know. It feels like to me there are so many interesting quarterbacks on the Browns schedule that somehow have links to the Browns. And I don't know if that's just because like the Browns have links to every quarterback in the league, like all the guys they could have drafted and didn't. But, even like the New York Giants and like the Baker Daniel Jones stuff and Sam Darnold and Baker with the Jets, that's always a thing. And then, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati and Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson, two could have been Browns quarterbacks, are both on the schedule. So there's a lot of interesting things from that. And quarterback is the first thing I think about when I think of a matchup. So because of that, maybe this is not where everybody would go, but I want to see the Browns at home against Lamar and against the best team in the division. So we know they beat the Ravens last year, but I want to see the Browns in their place with the MVP coming in. So my first pick is the Ravens at home.
I think we have a surprise at number one. That's maybe not the game that I would have circled. Let's see. I'm looking here. I'm going to go out of division with this one. The game I want to see, and I'm going to tell you when I want to see it with the number 2 pick, is I want to see, and I don't think it's going to happen with the way they're going to do this schedule, but I want to see at Dallas. I want to see it on Thanksgiving. That's going to be my number 2. I think the Dallas game is fascinating anyway. It's in Jerry World. Hopefully, it would be great if it ended up on Thanksgiving. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to have all the non-conference or non-division or whatever non-conference games, I guess is right, in those first 4. But I'd love to see that one on Thanksgiving. That's my number 2 pick. Ellis, what have you got?
This is lovely. So not only do I feel like Andrew Berry and Paul DePodesta, where this board has just fallen perfectly for me, I can tell you guys, and I suppose you can believe me if you'd like, but I am being truthful, much like Paul DePodesta was during his presser. The top 2 games on my board are still on the board overall, and I'm shocked by it. So since we're doing snake draft and I got back-to-backs here, I suppose it doesn't matter which order. But to just show you my board, my number 1 game was the Browns going back to New York, but this time facing the Giants. And I wrote about it a little bit today in the Easter egg, but there's just a lot of moving parts in that game. But the biggest thing is obviously going to be Odell Beckham Jr. facing his old team again, going back to New York again, even though they were in New York last year. This is we all go crazy for former players facing their former teams. We love that, and ESPN's going to crank this one out, and we're going to see the net hitting Odell in the face over and over and over again, and probably the yacht photo and the punching in the Green Bay wall. All those memories will come back up. I'm sure it'll be an interesting week for Odell himself with, what we're going to have to ask him that week. And then the little cherry on top is Freddie Kitchens. There's Freddie.
Oh!
Yep. The tight
Freddie
end.
Kitchens cherry on top. I didn't even think of that. That is quite a cherry.
There you go. Freddie Kitchens in a much more low-key revenge game. Who knows if he can get that tight end room up to get back in Cleveland. Evan Ingram maybe goes off for 150 yards, something crazy like that. But for me, Odell Beckham Jr. with a little wrinkle of Freddie Kitchens facing the Browns, obviously not in Cleveland, but it's still Freddie. That's the number 1 pick for me. And then we're going to take the Ravens off the board already in, I guess, not the first round, start of the second round.
You already got 2.
No. He was just excited about the Giants. He kept talking about it.
Sorry.
I just love that Giants game. So I ranted about that for a hot second. But so then my second pick is going to be the Browns going to Baltimore. We all remember the butt whooping they put on Baltimore there. And I remember, people talking about how are the Browns the 3rd best team in the AFC. And looking back on that, it's pretty funny now. But again, same argument as Doug, the MVP, Lamar Jackson, Cleveland, that sells itself. But I'm more interested in how they go to Baltimore and play that football game. So for me, it's Giants and at Baltimore.
Oh, I'm breathing a sigh of relief. I got confused by my New York teams there for a second because I'm using my intel here. I'm using what my scouting department has told me for my next pick and what they've told me about who likes what game, who likes what matchups. And Doug was talking about loving quarterbacks and those quarterback matchups. So I'm going to grab this one, and maybe I'm reaching on this one because this is a matchup we've seen 2 years in a row, but I still think it's a matchup worth watching. I'm going to take that game against the New York Jets. For the third straight year, it's going to be Baker Mayfield against Sam Darnold. I think that's still kind of a – if we're being honest, we don't really know exactly what each quarterback is. We know less about Darnold than we do about Baker. At least we've seen that success with Baker in a small sample size. But I think that game is going to get some attention still this year. So I'm going to reach a little bit, especially with Baltimore off the board. There was another game I really liked. I'm going to see if it gets back to me, but I doubt it will. But I'm going to take that New York Jets game. And by the way, Ellis, I predicted today that the Giants game is just prime for Monday Night Football. I think we've talked about that on this podcast too. That is just a prime Monday Night Football game.
It's got to be. Like I said, there's going to be clips of Odell in that New York Blue running all week, and ESPN's going to be all over it. I couldn't agree more.
Doug, you are up with your second pick. You already have Baltimore at home.
Okay, so this is fascinating to me. Dan, first of all, I'm going to rip your pick. I can't believe you went Jets there. I'm just straight up saying that's an awful pick. The last time we saw the Cleveland Browns play the Pittsburgh Steelers, Myles Garrett tried to rip off a quarterback's head. I am shocked that we are on the sixth pick, and given what happened on the field, the first time, whether it's at Pittsburgh, and so like what I would want to pick, and I might do this, is the first Browns-Pittsburgh game, whether it's at Pittsburgh or at Cleveland, however their schedule falls, the heck with it. I'm going to do it. I'm taking both. My wraparound is both Steelers games because we didn't see Big Ben last year, so the return of Big Ben against the Browns is always something. The grudge is set. It completely changed the path of the Browns season last year. And the first time, everything that Mike Tomlin has said since then and the Browns have said since then, what was or was not said in that fight, the hype for that game. Browns-Steelers always means something to Browns fans. But what it's going to mean this time, like I want to see Deshaun Watson too, but I'm taking Steelers, and that way I guarantee myself the first matchup, which is going to be nuts.
Yeah, that one hurts. This is going to be when they have the press conference announcing that they have replaced me and they're going in a different direction as a general manager. They might point to me picking the Jets over not one, but two Pittsburgh games. I was kind of eyeing maybe getting that Pittsburgh on the wraparound. I got a little too cute there.
The Jets are your Justin Gilbert, Dan, and you're going to have to wear this.
Oh man, that's good.
Now I got to find my Johnny Manziel.
Is there a homeless man that you could ask who you should pick right now in this draft?
This is going to clear out